Millionaire CEO's son was in tears at dinner until a little girl whispered, "He only needs a sister." The chandelier above him sparkled, reflecting tiny lights on the crystal glasses, but nothing about the room made him feel happy. Around him, the house was alive with noise, his parents chatting quietly about business deals, the servants moving silently to and fro, and the clock ticking in the background. But Ethan felt invisible. He picked at his food, moving his fork slowly through the neatly arranged vegetables on his plate. He wasn't hungry, not really. The food looked perfect, like it belonged in a magazine, but it did nothing to fill the emptiness inside him. His tiny hands trembled slightly as he pushed a carrot around, avoiding eye contact with anyone. "Ethan, do you like the dinner?" his mother asked suddenly, her voice polite but distracted. She didn't look at him directly, her eyes were fixed on her phone, scrolling through messages. Ethan shook his head slightly, but no words came out. He didn't want to answer. Even if he did, he knew it wouldn't matter. He had tried to talk to his parents before, about things that made him happy or things that scared him, but they were always busy. Always. His father laughed at something on the television that was mounted on the wall across the room. It was some fancy documentary about businessmen in faraway countries. Ethan didn't care. He had tried to join in the conversation once, telling a story about school, but his father had smiled politely and returned to the TV. A tear rolled down Ethan's cheek. He quickly wiped it with the back of his hand, hoping no one would notice. But he knew that even if they did, it wouldn't make a difference. Tears didn't change anything in this house. In this mansion full of sparkling lights and expensive furniture, Ethan felt completely alone. He thought about the other kids he knew at school. They had brothers and sisters to play with, to share secrets with, and to laugh at silly jokes. Ethan had no one. His friends often talked about their siblings, and he would nod along, hiding the ache in his chest. Sometimes he even pretended to have a brother or sister just so he wouldn't feel left out. "Eat your food, Ethan," his mother said again, more firmly this time, still without looking at him. "You need to keep up your strength." Ethan pushed the plate away gently. He wanted to scream, but no sound came. He wanted someone to hug him, to tell him that it was okay to feel lonely, but there was no one. The house was filled with people, yet he felt like he was in a small, dark room all by himself. He remembered the last time he had felt truly happy. It had been a sunny afternoon at the park, where he had met a little girl who shared her ice cream with him. She had laughed at his jokes, and for a few hours he had forgotten about the empty spaces in his life. That memory made his heart ache even more now because it felt so far away. Ethan glanced out of the large window next to him. The garden beyond stretched wide and green, with flowers that swayed gently in the wind. He could see the swings, the slide, and the little sandbox where he sometimes played alone. Everything looked perfect, but it was. The swings creaked as if calling his name, but when he ran outside, no one was there, just empty space and the soft whisper of leaves. He tried to imagine what it would be like to have someone close, someone who understood him. A brother or a sister to share his secrets, to sit beside him during meals, to laugh when he made silly faces. He thought about a sister who could hold his hand during thunderstorms, or laugh with him when they built sandcastles in the garden. The thought made his chest feel warm for a moment, but then the reality returned, and he felt that familiar sting of sadness. His mother finally looked up from her phone, noticing the tears on his cheeks. She frowned slightly, but then quickly looked away, muttering something about being late for an important meeting. His father didn't even notice. Ethan felt the weight of the silence pressing down on him. He swallowed hard, trying to stop more tears from falling. Sometimes, he wondered if anyone really cared about how he felt. In this big, beautiful house with its golden chandeliers, expensive paintings, and wide marble floors, it seemed like happiness was something he could only imagine, never actually hold. Ethan's mind wandered to the stories he had read in books. In those stories, children had adventures, friends, and families that loved them deeply. He wished he could step into one of those pages and be part of a world where he wasn't invisible. But when he looked around at the dining room, he saw only faces that were too busy, too preoccupied, or too far away to notice him. The clock ticked on, and dinner continued. His parents discussed numbers, companies, and trips they had planned. The words sounded distant to Ethan, like they were being spoken in another language. He longed for a simple conversation, for someone to ask him about his day or listen when he whispered something small and important. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ethan pushed his chair back quietly. He didn't want to cause a scene. The room was too quiet now, and he could hear the faint echo of his footsteps on the marble floor. He walked toward the garden door, hoping that maybe, just maybe, the evening air could ease the tight knot in his chest. Outside, the wind was cool and gentle. The flowers swayed, the trees whispered softly, and for the first time that evening, Ethan felt a tiny spark of comfort. He looked at the empty swings and smiled faintly. Maybe, he thought, there could be someone to share them with one day. Ethan didn't know when that would happen. He only knew that tonight, in the quiet of the garden, he could at least imagine a world where he wasn't alone. And for the first time in a long while, he felt a little hopeful. Ethan wandered through the garden, his small feet making soft thuds against the stone path. The evening air was cool, and the scent of flowers floated gently around him. He took a deep breath, hoping that the quiet and the beauty of the garden would calm the heaviness he felt in his chest. The moon had begun to rise, casting a silver light across the grass and flowers, making the garden look like a magical place straight out of a storybook. He paused near the swing set and stared at the empty swings swaying slowly in the breeze. The sight made him smile faintly, imagining himself flying high with a friend laughing beside him. But then the loneliness crept back in, and his small shoulders slumped. He had no one to share this magical moment with, no one to swing beside him or to tease when he swung too high. Just as he was about to turn away, a small voice called out, soft but clear. "Why are you sitting alone?" Ethan looked around, startled. A little girl stood a few feet away, her hair tied in two neat braids, a warm smile on her face. She wore a simple dress with little flowers on it, and in her hands she held a small basket filled with wildflowers she must have picked from somewhere. I'm not sitting," Ethan whispered, unsure what to say. He felt shy. No one had ever spoken to him like this before. People in the mansion often nodded politely or asked if he was doing his homework, but no one ever really asked about his feelings. The girl stepped closer, her eyes full of kindness and curiosity. "I mean, why are you alone? You look sad." Ethan's lips trembled, but he found himself nodding. The words he had been holding in for so long began to rise in his throat. He wanted to tell her everything, but he didn't know if he could. He had learned long ago that adults in his life were too busy to listen, and even the friends at school didn't really understand him. The little girl crouched down to his level and smiled gently. "I'm Lily," she said. "What's your name?" "Ethan," he whispered, barely above a breath. Lily reached out her hand, and after a moment's hesitation, Ethan shook it. It was small, warm, and comforting. For the first time in a long while, Ethan felt a little bit of courage. Maybe this girl would understand him, at least a little. "Why are you crying, Ethan?" Lily asked softly, tilting her head. She wasn't asking out of curiosity alone, there was real concern in her voice. Ethan swallowed hard, the words were heavy on his tongue. I don't have anyone to play with. No brothers, no sisters, no friends. Sometimes I feel very lonely," he admitted, his voice shaking. Lily's eyes softened. She didn't laugh or turn away or say that he was silly. She just nodded slowly, as if she understood completely. "I know what it's like to feel lonely," she said. "Sometimes I feel like nobody really sees me, too." Ethan blinked. Nobody had ever said that to him before. He had never thought anyone else could understand. The tightness in his chest began to loosen a little, and he felt a warmth spread through him. You want a friend?" Lily asked, tilting her head curiously. Ethan nodded slowly. I just wish I had someone to share things with, someone who understands me." Lily smiled a little more brightly this time. "I think I can help," she said, her voice full of quiet confidence. "But you need someone in your family too, maybe a sister?" Ethan's eyes widened. A sister, he had never thought of that before. The idea made his heart beat faster. He imagined someone small and kind, someone to laugh with and share secrets with, someone who would sit beside him during meals or swing beside him on the swings. The thought made a tiny spark of hope light up inside him, a feeling he hadn't had in a long time. You think I could have a sister?" he asked, almost afraid to hope. Lily nodded. "Yes, someone who can be your friend forever, and until then you have me." Ethan looked at her and felt a sudden surge of happiness. It wasn't everything he wished for, but it was something. Someone actually cared. Someone wanted to be there with him. He smiled, a real smile, the first one in what felt like forever. They sat together on the grass, and Lily began to talk about her day. She told Ethan stories about her adventures, the funny things her pet rabbit did, and the games she played at school. Ethan listened, laughed quietly at some of the stories, and even told a few of his own. For a little while, the sadness faded, replaced by the warmth of connection. As the evening grew darker, the lights from the mansion glowed softly in the distance. Ethan felt a sense of peace he hadn't known in months. The mansion, with all its grandeur, had felt cold and empty before, but now the garden felt alive. The flowers, the wind, the moonlight, and the soft laughter of a new friend made everything seem brighter. At one point, Ethan looked at Lily and whispered, I wish I had a sister, someone who could play with me, someone who would be there always. Lily looked at him seriously. Maybe you will, she said. Her voice was calm but full of belief. You never know what can happen. Sometimes good things come when we least expect them. Ethan thought about her words. Could it really happen? Could he really have a sister one day? The idea made him feel excited and scared at the same time. He had always been alone in this big, shiny house, and imagining someone joining him felt like a dream. But dreams sometimes came true, didn't they? They stayed in the garden for a long time, talking quietly. Ethan didn't feel sad anymore. He felt a connection, a small but strong bond that promised that he wasn't completely alone. Lily's presence reminded him that kindness could come in unexpected ways, even on a night that had started with tears. When it was time to go back inside, Lily stood and held out her hand. Come on, she said. I'll walk with you. Ethan took her hand. It was warm and reassuring. Together, they walked toward the mansion, their small hands brushing together. And for the first time that evening, Ethan felt like he belonged somewhere. Not in the mansion, not in the grand dining room, but right here, with someone who understood him. As they reached the door, Ethan turned to Lily and asked softly, Will you be my friend? Lily smiled brightly. Yes, always, and maybe one day you'll have a sister too. Ethan nodded, a small tear of happiness slipping down his cheek. It was different from the tears he had cried earlier at dinner. These were tears of hope, of a tiny dream beginning to take shape. That night, as he lay in his bed, Ethan thought about the garden, the swings, and the little girl with the kind eyes. He imagined a future where he wasn't lonely, where laughter filled his days, where he had someone to share secrets with, and maybe even a sister. He fell asleep with a smile on his face, feeling lighter, happier, and a little braver than he had in months. The next morning, Ethan woke up feeling different. The sunlight streamed through his tall bedroom windows, painting the walls with golden light. Normally, mornings in the mansion felt quiet and lonely, but today, a small sense of excitement bubbled in his chest. He thought about last night in the garden, about Lily, and about the idea she had whispered to him, the idea of having a sister. He got out of bed carefully, his small feet padding softly on the marble floor. He peeked into the dining room, expecting the usual scene, his parents busy with their phones, laptops, and papers. But something in his mind was different. Today, he wasn't going to feel invisible. He was going to hold on to the tiny spark of hope that Lily had given him. Downstairs, the house smelled like fresh bread and coffee. His mother was at the kitchen counter, talking quietly with the chef, arranging breakfast. His father sat at the table, reviewing some documents. They looked up briefly when he entered, but returned to their tasks almost immediately. Ethan felt a pang of the usual loneliness, but he shook it off. Today, he had a plan. He carried his breakfast to the small garden outside the dining room. It was early, and the sun was warm but gentle. He sat down on the edge of the fountain, the water sparkling in the morning light. He imagined a sister playing beside him, laughing as they splashed their hands in the water. The thought made him smile, and he whispered quietly to himself, maybe one day I will have a sister. The sound of footsteps on the garden path made him look up. It was Lily, carrying her little basket of flowers again. Her smile was bright, and she waved at him. Good morning, Ethan, she called cheerfully. Good morning, Ethan replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He felt shy but happy at the same time. Lily sat down beside him and placed her basket gently on the ground. She picked up a small flower and handed it to him. Here, this is for you, she said. It's pretty, isn't it? Ethan took the flower carefully, holding it as if it were a treasure. Thank you, he whispered. The small gesture made him feel special, something he hadn't felt in a long time. For a while they sat quietly, watching the fountain water sparkle in the sunlight. Ethan felt comfortable with Lily in a way he had never felt with anyone in the mansion. She didn't judge him or ignore him. She just was there, and that made all the difference. After a while, Lily leaned closer and asked, "Ethan, do you really want a sister?" Ethan nodded quickly. "Yes, I think it would be nice. Someone to play with, to laugh with, someone who understands me." His voice was soft but filled with longing. Lily's eyes sparkled. "Then maybe you'll get one," she whispered. "I don't know how, but sometimes things happen when you least expect them, and sometimes you just need to tell someone what you want so the world knows." Ethan looked at her in surprise. "Tell someone." "Yes," Lily said, her tone serious but gentle. "Maybe your parents don't see how lonely you are. Maybe if you tell them, they will understand. They might not know what you need unless you tell them." Ethan thought about that. He had tried to tell his parents before, but they were always busy. He had tried to write notes, leave little drawings, but somehow they had never noticed. The thought made him nervous, but Lily's encouragement gave him a little courage. I could try," he said slowly. "I could tell them." "You should," Lily said, smiling, "but you have to be brave, brave like a little knight, and I'll be here with you." The two children spent the morning together, walking around the garden, picking flowers, and imagining a world where Ethan wasn't lonely. They laughed at the funny shapes of clouds, imagined stories about the birds that flew above, and even pretended the fountain was a magical well that could grant wishes. When it was time for lunch, Ethan returned to the mansion with a small, determined smile on his face. He sat quietly at the dining table, looking at his parents. The usual feeling of invisibility tried to creep back, but he pushed it away. He remembered Lily's words. He had to be brave. "Mom, Dad," he began, his small voice trembling slightly. Both parents looked at him, surprised that he had spoken. I want a sister." There was a pause. His parents exchanged a quick look. Ethan felt a wave of nervousness wash over him. He had never said anything so direct before. He expected them to dismiss it, to return to their work, to tell him he didn't need one, but something unusual happened. His mother leaned back in her chair, her expression softening. "A sister?" she asked carefully, her eyes finally meeting his. "Yes," Ethan said, his voice gaining confidence. I feel lonely sometimes. I just want someone in the family, someone to play with, someone who understands me, a sister." His father put down the papers he had been reading. For the first time in a long time, he seemed fully present. "Ethan," he said gently, "we had no idea you felt this way. We thought you were happy, but I see now maybe we've been too busy." Ethan's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were different. These weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of hope. His parents were listening, they cared. His mother reached out and touched his hand. "We never wanted you to feel lonely, Ethan. We thought we were giving you everything you needed, but now we understand that love and family are more important than anything else." Ethan's heart swelled. For the first time, he felt truly seen. He had spoken his feelings aloud, and they mattered. Lily's words echoed in his mind. Sometimes you just need to tell someone what you want. The rest of the day passed differently. Ethan's parents spent more time with him, asking about his school, his friends, and even about Lily. They laughed together at small jokes, and for the first time, Ethan felt like the mansion wasn't just a beautiful house, it was home. That evening, Ethan and Lily met in the garden again. Ethan couldn't stop smiling. "I told them," he said proudly. "I told Mom and Dad I want a sister." Lily's eyes sparkled with happiness. "And," she asked. "They listened, really listened," Ethan said, his small voice full of excitement. "They said they understand, and maybe one day I'll have a sister." Lily smiled and took his hand again. "See, that's the magic of hope, and now the world knows what you want. Good things will come, Ethan. You just have to wait and believe." They played together in the garden until the stars appeared in the night sky. Ethan imagined his future sister, laughing beside him, running through the garden, sitting with him at the table, and sharing secrets. The loneliness that had seemed so heavy for so long now felt lighter, replaced by hope and excitement. As Ethan lay in bed that night, he thought about Lily's whisper, about his parents' reaction, and about the possibilities of tomorrow. He felt brave, happy, and full of dreams. The mansion no longer felt like a place of emptiness. It felt like a place where love and family could grow. And somewhere deep inside, Ethan knew that his wish, whispered in the garden under the soft light of the moon, had begun to take root. The next morning in the mansion felt different. Ethan woke up early, the sunlight pouring into his room, warming the floor and making the walls glow. Usually, mornings here were quiet and empty, but today there was a new energy in the air. He could hear soft voices from downstairs, his parents talking in a way that sounded more personal than usual. Curiosity filled him, and he hurried to the dining room, eager to see what had changed. As he entered, he saw his parents seated together at the table, not for breakfast but deep in conversation. His father leaned forward, his elbows on the table, and his mother had her hands folded in front of her. Their faces were thoughtful, their expressions serious but kind. Ethan hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should interrupt, but then he remembered Lily's words from the garden. Sometimes you have to speak up, sometimes you have to hope. "Good morning, Ethan," his mother said, noticing him standing quietly in the doorway. Her voice was softer than usual, warm and gentle. "Good morning," Ethan replied, his small voice filled with a mix of shyness and excitement. His father smiled and patted the seat next to him. "Come, sit with us," he said. Ethan obeyed, sliding into the chair, and immediately felt the difference. His parents were giving him their full attention, something that hadn't happened in a long time. "We were talking about you," his mother began. "About what you said yesterday about wanting a sister." She paused, letting the words sink in. Ethan's heart pounded, a mixture of hope and nervousness filling him. "Yes," Ethan said quietly. I just want someone to play with, someone to talk to, someone to understand me." His father reached over and took his hand. "Ethan, we never realized how lonely you've been. We thought providing everything in the house, the toys, the games, the school, would be enough. But we see now that it isn't the same as having a sibling, someone to grow up with, someone to share your life with." Ethan's eyes widened. His parents were really listening. They weren't just nodding or saying polite words, they were really understanding. For the first time, he felt like his voice mattered. "We've been thinking," his mother continued, "maybe it's time we consider expanding our family. Maybe it's time we bring a little sister into your life, Ethan." Ethan's heart leapt. He could hardly believe what he was hearing. "Really?" he whispered, his small hands gripping the edge of the table. "Yes," his father said, smiling. "We want you to be happy and we want our family to feel complete. We've been so busy with work that we didn't notice how important this is for you. But now we understand." Ethan felt tears welling up in his eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. He had waited so long to hear these words, and finally they were here. His parents were ready to listen, ready to care, and ready to make a change. Throughout the day, Ethan noticed small differences. His parents spent time with him, asking about his school, his friends, and even his little adventures with Lily. They laughed together at his funny stories, praised him for his creativity, and even joined him in small games in the garden. For the first time, Ethan felt truly seen, truly valued. That afternoon, Ethan found himself sitting on the swing set in the garden, watching the leaves flutter in the wind. Lily appeared as usual, her basket of flowers swinging gently in her hand. She ran up to him, her eyes sparkling. "Good afternoon, Ethan," she called cheerfully. "Good afternoon, Lily," Ethan replied, a wide smile spreading across his face. "Mom and Dad, they listened, they really listened, and they're thinking about having a sister for me." Lily's eyes widened with delight. "See, I told you, sometimes good things happen when you least expect them, and now your wish, your dream, might come true." Ethan felt a rush of happiness. He had imagined this moment countless times, but now it felt real. He and Lily spent the afternoon talking about what it would be like to have a sister, how they could play together, how Ethan could teach her things, and how she could teach him things too. The garden seemed even more magical that day, filled with laughter and the promise of the future. Meanwhile, inside the mansion, Ethan's parents had begun discussing what it would mean to welcome a new child into the family. They talked about the responsibilities, the joys, and the love that would grow with a sibling. They realized that being a parent wasn't just about providing material things. It was about presence, care, and emotional connection. His mother looked out the window at Ethan and Lily, who were picking flowers together. "He deserves this," she said softly. "He deserves to grow up with someone to share his life with. We've been so focused on everything else that we forgot the most important thing, love and family." His father nodded, feeling a warmth in his chest he hadn't felt in a long time. "We will do everything we can to make this right," he said. "To make him happy, to make our family complete." Days passed, and the atmosphere in the mansion changed. The air felt lighter, warmer, and filled with laughter. Ethan's parents spent more time with him, listening to his ideas, sharing stories, and playing games. They even invited Lily more often, realizing how much joy and connection she brought into Ethan's life. Ethan's happiness grew with each passing day. The garden became their little world of imagination and friendship, where laughter echoed and loneliness had no place. He and Lily talked about everything: the stars, the flowers, the swings, and most importantly, about the possibility of a sister. Every time Ethan imagined a sister, he felt a little more hope, a little more excitement, and a lot more love in his heart. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with orange and pink hues, Ethan sat on the steps of the mansion with Lily. "Do you think she'll be like me?" he asked, his voice soft. Lily tilted her head and smiled. "She might be different, Ethan. But she'll be someone you can laugh with, play with, and share your secrets with, and that's what matters." Ethan nodded, feeling the truth in her words. He realized that a sister wouldn't have to be exactly like him to make him happy. She would just need to be someone to love and share his life with. As night fell, Ethan went to bed with a heart full of dreams. He thought about the garden, about Lily, and about the family that was beginning to feel complete. He imagined a future filled with laughter, love, and the simple joys of having someone to share it all with. He drifted off to sleep, a soft smile on his face, feeling safe, loved, and hopeful. For the first time in a long while, Ethan knew that life could change in beautiful ways, that dreams could come true, and that love, true family love, was the most important thing of all. And somewhere deep in the quiet of the mansion, a small seed of hope had taken root, ready to grow into something wonderful, something that would bring joy to Ethan's heart every single day. The morning air in the mansion was filled with excitement. Ethan woke up earlier than usual, his small heart beating fast with anticipation. Today felt different. Something in the house had shifted. He could sense it, though he didn't yet know exactly what was coming. The sunlight poured through his tall windows, warming the floor and making the room feel golden. Ethan jumped out of bed and ran to the window, looking down at the garden where the flowers swayed gently in the morning breeze. His parents appeared in the hallway, their faces full of smiles and gentle energy. They looked happy, calmer, and more present than Ethan had ever seen them. "Good morning, Ethan," his mother said warmly. "Are you ready for a special day?" "Yes," Ethan shouted, his voice filled with excitement. "What is it?" His father knelt beside him and ruffled his hair. "You'll see soon," he said with a wink. Ethan's curiosity grew. He had been waiting for this moment for so long, imagining what it would feel like to finally have a sister to love, play with, and share his days with. Throughout the morning, Ethan's parents kept giving him little hints, smiles, quiet whispers, and glances that made his heart race. He tried to guess, imagining everything from a new puppy to a surprise trip. But deep down, he knew it had to be something different, something wonderful. Finally, mid-morning, his mother took Ethan's hand and led him to the nursery. Ethan's eyes widened as he saw a small cradle placed gently in the center of the room. Inside, wrapped in a soft pink blanket, was a tiny baby girl. She had soft brown hair, big curious eyes, and a gentle yawn as she looked up at Ethan. "Ethan," his mother said softly, "meet your little sister. She's finally here and she's all yours to love." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. He knelt beside the cradle, his small hands reaching out carefully to touch her tiny fingers. She grasped his finger with surprising strength, and he felt a rush of emotion unlike anything he had experienced before. Tears filled his eyes, but this time they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of pure joy. I have a sister," he whispered, his voice trembling. She's really here." His father smiled and nodded. "Yes, Ethan. She's your sister and she's part of our family now. She will grow up with you, laugh with you, and share all your days. You'll be her protector, her friend, and her guide." Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had dreamed of this moment for so long, and now it was real. He gently brushed the baby's hair and whispered softly, "I'm your brother. I'll take care of you. You won't be alone." Throughout the day, Ethan learned how to help with small tasks, fetching diapers, gently holding his sister during feeding times, and talking to her softly so she wouldn't cry. Every time she looked at him with her big eyes, he felt a deep connection, as if she had always been part of his life, even though she had just arrived. Later, Lily came to visit. She had a bouquet of fresh flowers in her hands and a big smile on her face. Ethan ran to her, his small arms full of excitement. "Lily, come see, she's here, my sister is here," Lily gasped, her eyes lighting up with joy. She gently peered into the cradle and whispered, "She's beautiful and she's lucky to have you as her brother." Ethan felt a sense of pride and responsibility. "I'll always take care of her, I promise," I won't let her be lonely ever." The two children sat in the nursery for a long time, imagining all the games they would play together in the future. Ethan told Lily about the things he wanted to teach his sister: how to swing high, how to climb trees safely, how to imagine magical stories in the garden. Lily listened and smiled, encouraging him with her kind words. In the evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange and pink, Ethan's parents joined them in the garden. The air felt warm, peaceful, and full of love. Ethan held his sister in his arms, gently rocking her as his parents watched. For the first time in his life, the mansion felt complete, not because of its grandeur or luxury, but because of the love that filled it. "You see, Ethan," his mother said softly, "family is more than wealth or possessions. Family is about being present, caring, and loving one another. Today our family feels whole because of you and your sister." Ethan smiled, his heart full. "I feel happy, really happy, and I want to share this happiness with her always." His father put a hand on his shoulder. "And you will, Ethan. You'll guide her, protect her, and laugh with her. She's lucky to have you as her brother." The days that followed were filled with laughter, play, and new routines. Ethan loved spending time with his sister, reading to her, making little toys for her, and watching her grow. He and Lily continued to play in the garden, now imagining adventures that included his sister. The garden became their magical world, filled with laughter, stories, and the joy of new beginnings. Ethan realized something important during these days. Happiness wasn't about wealth or fancy toys. Happiness was about love, connection, and family. He had longed for a sister for so many months, and now that wish had come true. Every time he looked at her tiny face, every time she grasped his finger, every time she smiled in her sleep, he felt a deep sense of purpose and love. One evening, Ethan sat on the swing with Lily beside him, watching the stars appear one by one in the sky. He gently held his sister's tiny hand as she slept in a small sling against his chest. "Thank you, Lily," he whispered softly. "I never would have imagined all of this without you. You helped me believe that dreams can come true." Lily smiled, her eyes shining in the moonlight. "You believed in your dream, Ethan. I just reminded you that dreams are worth hoping for. And look, your dream came true. Your family is complete, and you're all full of love now." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of calm and joy that he had never known before. He realized that love had the power to change everything, that kindness and care could turn loneliness into happiness, and that small, meaningful connections, like the one with Lily, could lead to wonderful changes in life. As the night grew quiet, Ethan tucked his sister gently into her crib and kissed her forehead. He whispered softly, "I'll always be here for you. I'll always love you." The baby stirred slightly, blinking her big eyes at him as if she understood. Ethan smiled, feeling the warmth of love fill his heart completely. From that day on, Ethan's life changed in ways he had only dreamed about. He had a sister to laugh with, play with, and protect. He had parents who listened, cared, and made him feel important. He had a friend in Lily who had helped him see the magic of hope and the power of speaking from the heart. The mansion, once a place of loneliness for Ethan, became a home filled with laughter, warmth, and love. Every corner echoed with joy, the garden with its swings and flowers, the dining room filled with shared meals, and the nursery with the soft coos and giggles of a baby girl. Ethan learned that family was the greatest treasure of all. Money, toys, and luxury could never replace the love and connection he now felt. And as he lay in bed that night, holding a small hand in his own, he whispered a little prayer of gratitude. "Thank you for my sister, for my parents, for Lily, and for the love that fills our home." Outside, the moon shone gently over the mansion, casting silver light on the garden where Ethan, Lily, and the baby had played earlier. The air was filled with peace, promise, and the quiet magic of new beginnings. And inside, Ethan slept with a heart full of joy, knowing that his family was finally complete, that dreams could come true, and that love was the most beautiful thing in the world.